This is a PSA that we've been saying all over the place, is sign up for another race, preferably a local race. Whatever Swimrun is next is whichever one you sign up for.
Yeah, that's the one to sign up for.
So certainly sign up for one. We are big believers in just supporting your local events. Our next race is going to be Bellingham Swimrun. So incidentally, if you want to come with us, it's an awesome race. Definitely Orcas Island vibes, Pacific Northwest vibes. The course is awesome. Excellent race director. Excellent race. We're committed to basically racing, if at all possible, all the races in our time zone.
Yes.
That means we're going to be flying up to Seattle for a weekend to do Bellingham, and we're stoked to go back. We went there last year. An awesome race.
Was it good?
Super fun.
Welcome to the Low Tide Boys, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 279 of the show. We got something special for everyone this week. We are going to be counting down our top 5 things to do after a swimrun race. So if you've been paying attention to anything on the swimrun social media, universe, you might have heard that Attila Catalina happened now a couple weekends ago.
Yep.
Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's like, oh, what are we going to do next? So we thought, hey, why not put out a show on our best thinking on what you should be doing after the race.
What we do after the race, what other people do, race photos released, vibes are at an all-time high. The swimrun bug is fully, what do bugs do? Bite. What to do now, we're going to tell you.
Yeah. So without further ado, number one for us is celebrate. You just did this huge race. For a lot of folks, it might be your first swimrun. It might be your 20th swimrun, your 30th swimrun. But still, it's a huge achievement. If you did Catalina a couple weeks ago, I don't care if you did the experience or the World Series, it was a day. I mean, we saw influencers talking about how the experience was the hardest thing they've ever done. I've talked to people who did the sprint who were like mind blown by how difficult it was. And obviously the World Series. Chipper, how was the World Series?
It speaks for itself. Check out the previous episode for a full race report. But absolutely. And celebrating could be, hey, go back, have celebratory beers or whatever you do. Sometimes that's, I've been, I like to reward myself. Oh, I'm going to get that new pair of shoes. I completed that race, or I'm going to upgrade my Garmin, or maybe a new swimrun kit. There's always something.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself as a form of celebration. But yeah, I think reliving the day, which sort of takes us right into tip 2.
Yeah, which is related to the first one, which is really debriefing how it went. Now, for a lot of folks, outcome are very outcome goal oriented and are, might not be exactly satisfied with how the race turned out. Now, anyone thinking they're going to show up to a swimrun and have a perfect race, longer the race. I mean, we've said this for years, Tripper. The longer the race, the more not even like the likelihood, but it's just like it's inevitable that something's going to go sideways, and it's on you to figure out how you respond. How did you deal with the adversity? Did you move forward? How did you process? And that's where debriefing can be really helpful, not just in terms of
do 3 hours.
Exactly.
One mechanism.
Exactly. Not just as like, like the sort of like the brass tacks of how everything went down, but also in terms of like, hey, how did we communicate? How did it feel out there? Where are rooms for improvement? When we did Catalina in 2020, I think immediately the first thing I told you after finishing was like, we need to do more swimming. So it can be extremely practical, but it could also be sort of like, emotional, like how did you feel about it? How did you communicate? Did you have low points? How did you deal with them and things like that?
Yeah, and I think stuff that we debrief on, whether it's we have our own debrief rituals, the part celebration, part debrief, but it's like, oh, hey, how did your fueling plan go? Kind of reviewing that. Oh, I was really trying to hit this many grams of carbs per hour, and I did this, and here's the things I would adjust. Mm-hmm. Kind of treat it very similar to how you check in with yourself after maybe one of your longer weekend runs. Like, how did your gear work out for you? What are some other stuff that we usually debrief?
Certainly on training. So how did the training match up? How helpful was it? I mean, after, when I got my personal race report from you was, hey, you're really happy you did all those hills.
The hill work paid off.
And also like part of the debrief is like, well, what are you going to take into your next swim run? And certainly we talked about after your race, Tripper, how it's like, it seemed really important to train specifically for a race, especially on the running when it's so challenging, making sure you're not just like, hoping for the best or doing the minimum is like, everything's going to be fine. Like it's one thing to have the swim fitness that we talk about always, like that's the best way to make sure a swimmer doesn't turn into an ordeal. But what are you going to do next time? What are you going to take what you learned from this race into your next swim run, whenever that is?
Or even your next event. A lot of things that are applicable to swim run, your fueling, your gear. There's certain elements of those that if you're doing an ultra marathon coming up or a triathlon or whatever, you can take your fueling learnings from swimrun. I think, as you touched on, swimrun is always providing opportunities to come up with innovative solutions on the fly is one way to put it. Being resourceful in that manner and processing through those challenges can help you with any sport.
I think that the last thing on debriefing is, it's kind of like the softer piece, right? It's one thing to be tactical. Okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But it's also like, hey, I dealt with a lot of adversity. Give yourself the credit for getting through it. For, as Mario said a couple episodes ago, endure is in the name, right? These are endurance events. So making sure that you are giving yourself your kudos for doing a job well done, overcoming adversity. Like maybe you were cold, maybe the swims were too long, maybe you were, sort of bit off a little bit more you can chew. All this stuff is kind of like data in the bank that you can use for your next event and just kind of like go from there.
Absolutely. Debrief can just be thinking about it. You could be talking it into a microphone and sending it out to the universe. You could be journaling, writing some things down, load up your Strava notes. There's all sorts of ways to debrief, but saying it out loud or getting it out of your head is probably going to be the most impactful.
Yeah, DMing us. We get DM'd race reports all the time.
Your debriefs to us, how it went. Send a voice note. I think that would be cool.
We'll take it.
Yes. On to 3.
Yes. This is one that's both for before your swim run and after a swim run, and that is check your gear. Not just in, hey, where do you want to do some upgrades for next time?
Not the debrief like, oh, I need a lighter suit or I need a thermal situation.
I need those carbon fiber paddles.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably do. But yeah, checking you just had a huge race. Like if you did Catalina long course, you check your paddles, you check your shoelaces, you check to see if there's any tears in your suit. If your next swim run is coming up in a few weeks, like for us in Bellingham Swim Run, is your gear ready to go? Did you process your gear when you got home, or is it still sitting in your dry bag just, doing stuff?
Guilty. Not now. I've been guilty of that, but I've been better. But yeah, if you can wash your gear after and do that proper thing under the armpits or certain areas is where you might see a nick or something here and there and just get right on top of that, can also get the wheel spinning. What to do next in the gear scenario.
Seriously, I mean, people get the sickness. We see it when people are like, oh, what shoes do I need to get? And paddles and wetsuit and stuff like that. And that's all part of it. But certainly that isn't the way you need to be going into your next swim run. But after a swim run race, that's a perfect time to just check where you are, do an inventory. Do you need to order more gels for your next training cycle, for your next race? Do you need to, your shoes a little bit long in the tooth and you got to replace them? So making sure that you're optimizing to make sure for your next swim run experience will be just as good as the one you just had.
Best.
Yeah.
Now, speaking about the best it could be, we try to be the best about number 4.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like our mission, which also California Swim Run has this on their hoodies, which were, made a final appearance in Catalina, which is tell everyone you know about Swim Run. You had a race. Now it's time to go to your office, your all hands, and just regale everyone with your feats of endurance. Whether they like it or not, it's your job to tell people what an amazing weekend you had. And again, after Catalina, we saw a bunch of influencers, a bunch of people that showed up or posting their things they would have done different. They were getting cold, they were doing whatever. It's all good. But telling people about it, I mean, that's how we're going to grow the sport, is by someone gets inspired, someone watches a YouTube video, someone checks out an Instagram account. I mean, that's what happened with us. And then they want to go do a race.
Yeah. And I think some cool things to help, because swim run, when you're telling someone, it's like a little bit hard to visualize. And Strava, the little map sort of route tracer thing, I think is a really cool way to do that. Obviously, check out the race photos is something to utilize. Aaron from Attila USA was out there with his drone and his great camera, got some, truly amazing magazine-worthy Nat Geo level shots here. And so those are great to share around, because it really just does showcase the awe of the whole situation. It's really quite amazing.
When we were doing our first World Championship and just sort of explaining what that race was to people, it was almost easier to be like, hey, here's this YouTube video that just has like the map video, which is, that's usually enough to be like, okay, I see, you're crazy.
Okay, yeah, you have a problem.
But certainly, telling people about it, tell your loved ones how it went. If you have a significant other at home who you left to go do this race and you're coming back, tell them about it. Share this. Make this a community thing. Bring them next time. I think so much of this sport, like the way it's going to grow is by telling people about it, especially if you had a good experience. If you had a terrible experience, maybe keep that to yourself. No, just kidding. Even if you had a bad experience, like explain to people why. It's like, oh, I wasn't. Usually it's an own goal on the bad experiences. Like, oh, I didn't do enough training. I totally didn't take any nutrition during the thing. I didn't have the right gear. I didn't listen to the low tide boys. I didn't do what 99% of swim runners were doing. So there's usually some reason why people might have a bad day, let alone like injury and, bonking and things like that. But telling people about it, that's the way we're going to grow this thing. That's the way we're going to have more people show up at Catalina next year.
Absolutely. And I know Chris and I, I kind of think we have like our endurance circles, like folks we know from could be your triathlon club, could be your masters club, could be your trail running club. I bet after you did Catalina or did your last swim run, you're probably like, I know like boop, 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 like these 3 or 4 people, I think they would be into this kind of thing. And maybe those are the people that you share with or push a little bit more on or bring out to your next swim run. I know certain folks in the San Diego swim run crew down there are really great about this type of stuff. Hey, somebody has a little bit of interest. Hey, come out. We're doing it on Friday morning, 9 a.m., whatever. Be there. We'll have all the gear for you. So and spreading the good word.
And that's actually pretty hard for us because we already tapped every single endurance person.
It's like if you know us,
there's no one else. There's no one else that we can tell that's already in our contact list, I guess.
Our endurance Venn diagrams probably pretty heavily overlap.
Now, the last one, and this is our favorite one. Again, this is a PSA that we've been saying all over the place: is sign up for another race. Preferably a local race. Whatever swim run is next is whichever one you sign up for.
That's the one to sign up for.
So certainly sign up for one. We are big believers in just supporting your local events. Our next race is going to be Bellingham Swim Run. So incidentally, if you want to come with us, it's an awesome race. Definitely Orcas Island vibes, Pacific Northwest vibes. The course is awesome. Excellent race director. Excellent race. You can use the code. This is with spaces in between low tide boys. So low space tide space boys with a Z to save 20% off registration. We're going to be there. Again, we're committed to basically racing, if at all possible, all the races in our time zone.
Yes.
So, that means we're going to be flying up to Seattle for a weekend to do Bellingham, and we're stoked to go back. We went there last year. An awesome race.
Was it good?
Super fun.
There's an endangered snail.
Yeah. I forget the name
snail. You got to freeze your shoes after I'm making space in the freezer right now. So if you did Catalina and that you're a West Coaster, Bellingham, is like a 2-hour, 2 to 4 hour ordeal to get up there from the Bay Area. So that's 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours from LA. Mm-hmm. We have the Folsom Swim Run coming up in July. You can fly into Sacramento, and that's a 20-minute drive from there. Very accessible, and a lot of these have a short course and a long course. And I think if you do the math, and most race directors are going to be pretty cool if you're like, hey, I'm traveling here. Can I just do both races? And I feel like they'll probably let you do that.
In Bellingham, the long course starts about an hour before the short course. So if you're sporty, you could do the long course and the short course.
That'd be pretty sporty.
And at Folsom, you could do the chipper double, where you do the short course, which is extremely short. It's like a 3-mile, 4-ish mile thing, right into the long course.
Like a 7-minute break in between.
Yeah.
Or at least
that's how it's been working.
Yeah, that's how it's been working out lately. So, and then as you can always head on over to Dave's list, which is on lowtideboys.com, which is all the races globally that we have, but you can sort by your state and country there to find the closest race. So always a plug for Dave's list. Mm-hmm. So go check that out. But on the West Coast, Bellingham Swim Run, really excited about that one. Lake Patton that they have there is, I'm like, oh man, if we lived even within an hour drive of this place, we would be just like crushing swim runs here on a regular basis.
For sure.
Such a great swim run spot. And then Folsom Swim Run by the good folks, Bill at Total Body Fitness there. They do a great job. They're putting on 30, 40 endurance events in this greater Sacramento area a year. They've been doing it for like 10 plus years. These people know how to put a race on, and they've done a really great job with the swim run that they have, which will be their 4th year doing it this year. So be sure to check those out. if you're on the West Coast, and those are some local ones coming up here in June and then in July for the Folsom Swim Run.
Right. And if you're not on the West Coast and you're anywhere else and you want to sign up for another Attila race, you can use the code LTBZ10 to save 10% off registration for all the remaining races. We have Orcas Island, we have Mackinac, we have Casco Bay, which is like an all-timer classic.
All-timer.
If you've got the swim run bug like you did Catalina and you're like, oh man, I really want to take this to the next level. I mean, come on. Casco Bay is where you want to be. You also have
Whistler?
Austin and Whistler. So yeah, Whistler next, then Mackinac,
Casco,
Orcas, and
Austin.
then Austin. So those are the big Attila USA races. If you have qualifying for the World Championship on your hero journey, then you certainly want to sign up for those. But there's also a bunch of other events around. So Mud Skipper is putting on a bunch of races. There's some local races that are happening. So certainly like look out to see. If you're in the US, there's 13, 14 swim runs to choose from. If you're in Europe, enjoy yourself because there's one every weekend. But yeah, it's so important we want you to go out to your next race. If you really love Catalina, don't let that feeling, those good vibes down on a vine. Sign up for another race.
Keep the vibes
Commit
high.
yourself. Take some time off and then build for your next race. Let's say you're doing Casco Bay. That's a very different race than Catalina. So you should train differently for it. You should definitely expand your swimming. You should get your running a little bit more up tempo because it's much more runnable. Things like that. Just make sure you have a good race. And that'll be the same for any other swim run that's out there. Just peep the map. DM us if you have any questions. Certainly a little specificity along with a large volume of swimming is going to make sure you show up race ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if Catalina was your first event and you're looking to do something else, I think you're really going to understand kind of the magic behind Swimrun because the courses, again, aren't dictated by anything other than the way that nature's laid out. If it's laid out in a hilly mountains fashion, like an island, so be it. If it's laid out alongside a river in Sacramento, flat, like kind of fast trails in and around, then that's how that one's going to be. So you'll kind of get an understanding of maybe where you're excelling or the types of races that you like better or the places that you like to go to do races.
Yeah. Let me see. Anything else? Did we do it? Is it done? That was 5 plus a bonus one.
That's 5.
I mean, we're always good for
getting a bonus.
We're always good for the bonus one. Well, there you have it. There's 5 plus 1 top things that you should do after your swim run. Share it, tell people about it, debrief, get your learnings in, absorb what you experienced, tell people about it, sign up for another race.
Put it in your mind.
Check your gear.
I have another bonus.
Oh, okay.
Tell them about the Low Tide Boys.
Yeah.
Tell them the Low Tide Boys sent you.
Seriously, like if there's anyone out there who's like, yeah, I'm curious about Swimrun, but I don't know what's going on, just send them to our website.
Here's a couple of guys.
Well, that's why we started the show, because so many people
set
were
them
asking
straight.
us. So we were like, well, why don't we just start a podcast? So we don't have to talk to our friends.
Yeah. They can just listen to us.
Yes.
See you out there.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swimrun.
Check out our website, lowtideboys.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boys on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboys@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Writing Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swimrun and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run,
And then a swim,
then another run,
then another swim.
then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
Of course, yes.